there's a lot of similarities between discipline and ownership, but I did want to just touch on that, which is being accountable for the results of your actions. So
Nice.
they're kind of the same, and that's where the whole, if you do something, own it, and if you did it wrong, own it. Which is such a hard thing to do.
Because if you own it, now there's opportunity to learn something from that, right?
Exactly.
You go back to and face
exactly.
it.
If you can't fail, if you can't admit failure, how are you ever going to learn?
Well, failure, exactly, because failure is opportunities to learn. Welcome to this week's episode of Empower and Elevate podcast. Today's episode is a little different. We're taking a trip back in time to revisit a conversation that we recorded almost a year ago. It's been sitting in our archives waiting for just the right moment to share. And today, well, it feels like the right moment. So in this episode, we delve into one of the most powerful topics, both in business and life: core values. We're excited to bring you this discussion with Dan Gilligan, where we explore the importance of values like honesty, kindness, and discipline in transforming both personal and professional success. Whether you're running a business or looking to strengthen your personal relationships, these foundational principles aren't just buzzwords. They are essential pillars that can drive growth, accountability, and meaningful change. We hope this conversation inspires you as much as it inspired us when we first recorded it. Let's dive in.
So today we wanted to chit-chat about core values and reinventing ourselves as MSP business owners, and how we came up with the core values that we're putting in place in our business, and also just how we're using those core values to transform our business and to change ourselves. Do you want to go over what some of your core values are? Or you want me to go over it first?
Well, I'd love to hear. Obviously, Dan, it sounds like your current core values have been in place a little bit longer than what we have just, introduced. So I'd love to hear the history there.
Perfect.
Integra.
Yeah, absolutely. So, oh my gosh. So first things first, you kind of have to, it's kind of funny when creating our own core values. I have to go back to when I started the company, and I started the company based on integrity, and doing what you say you're going to do, right? So one of my very first core values I felt really had to be honesty. And not just so that's my first core value is being honest with what you sell, what you say, what you do, and not only just, but so here's the funny thing. When I went through creating our core values, I started to match core values on during employee reviews, right?
Okay.
And while I was doing that, I realized that different people can take different names differently, right? So Our core values are honesty, kindness, discipline, ownership, and learning. So 5 core values. Well, as I was going through these core values, I realized I was talking to one of our employees, and I was like, they can be taking this totally differently. So I decided to actually sit down and go, what is honesty to me? So honesty to me is be truthful, sincere, and straightforward in your dealings with others. So that's kind of how I defined it. So now when I'm doing business reviews or wherever we're doing hiring, I always sit down and I define what those core values are. But that's my very first one. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
So I love them. So you said honesty, kindness, discipline, ownership. What was the last one? I was writing the same thing. Learning. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Learning.
Great. So I love them all, actually. And they kind of, I guess you're wording things just slightly different. I think there's a lot of similarities between the 5 that we've recently established here. On the honesty piece, yes, 100%. And being kind. I mean, kindness goes a long ways, right? Like
Right.
we're all humans, and there's no reason to be kind. You know, you never know where people are at mentally, emotionally, physically. Kindness can go a long ways, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And I always have to think that it's really how you react to things that shapes you. I mean, you could go home one day and somebody cuts you off, and you're just thinking they're being a butthead.
Mhm.
But in reality, they're not even thinking about anything. Maybe something really bad has happened at home, or they're trying to get their daughter to something, and their life is just crazy, and they just didn't they they didn't mean to be
Sure.
rude to you. Um, but in turn, they might have been, right. And it's funny. So kindness, you're just talking about this. So what I defined kindness as in my core values was to be friendly,
Okay.
to be generous, and considerate. So that's what I defined it
Wonderful.
as. Yeah.
Wonderful. And yeah, the kindness thing. It's hard not to just react. Take a
Yeah.
second, breathe, think this through before you just react. So your example there with, somebody cuts you off, your first thing is to maybe lay on the horn, give them some friendly sign language, let them know they're number one, whatever. Or maybe some people that turn into road rage, right? You just never know how someone's going to react
Yeah.
on either side of that. But no, sometimes just being a little bit, being kind, being understanding, and just letting things
I think
go.
you said it
And
perfectly.
in the
Yeah. Or
grand
I mean,
scheme of the world, right? Like going, it
mhm.
really means nothing. So they cut you off. Okay, whoop de do, right? Like no one died.
Right.
Maybe they'd be a little bit cautious next time, or maybe I need to be a little bit more defensive just in case. But tomorrow it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. I think you said it perfectly. It's how you react. I mean, it's just it's how you react to it, and just to be kind and considerate and friendly, and just take a step back has always been my issue. I always want to, even when somebody's talking to me about something with technology, I always want to
Mhm.
interject, and I have to realize, no, let the person stop talking, listen to the person. And it takes a lot of effort to actually listen,
Sure.
and hear the person talking to you. So yeah,
I know I'm guilty of
pretty
that
good.
as well. Like to interject because you've got something, especially on the technology piece, right? Um, so that kindness piece, I said that can go a long way. I'm going to say that I go back to that. You never know where someone's at in life, and just taking a
Yeah.
moment and not acting on your emotion because that's just human nature. A lot of times, just to react. The
And you know
discipline,
what someone
yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, go
No, I
ahead.
was just gonna say real quick on that. I think also someone told me once that we always want to be competitive, or if you have a competitive nature too, and think of your interjecting or over talking someone else could be taken as um, being competitive in a way. And sometimes people just want to be listened to, and they don't really necessarily want to hear your comparison of the story they just said to you. So that's really gone a long way in my dealings with customer service too. It's just, if you're listening to a problem, don't
Mhm.
immediately respond with a problem that you think is harder or better or worse, or so.
Yeah, I'm gonna admit something here, as I will say that the older I've gotten, as I've aged, that I struggle more with shutting my mouth and listening, and a lot of that has to do with I have something I want to say,
Yeah.
and if I wait, I'm going to forget it. Right. So if I wait for you to finish, I'm going to
Interesting.
forget what I was going to say. So when I wait for you to finish, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what I was going to say now. Right. Like,
That's so
it's like,
funny.
no, I mean, it's
Uh,
funny, but it's also like, it's frustrating because it's like going, yeah, I've lost that retention of those thoughts to be able to wait and say, okay.
yeah,
Now I'm going to say that thing, right? It's like, nope, there's nothing there. It's gone. It used
it's
to be
gone.
just the opposite, right? I would never say anything. It'd be so quiet. And now I'm always trying to over talk. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's not trying to be challenge you or be aggressive. I'm
That's
afraid I'm going to
fascinating.
forget it.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's happened to me where I've forgotten it afterwards, and I'm like, it probably wasn't very important to say anyway. So, but I never thought of it like that. That's a great perspective to come out
So
there.
the discipline aspect, can you shed some, tell me a little bit more about the discipline and what that meaning is to you, your
Sure.
organization?
Sure. So for me, this one and the next ownership took me a long time to define, actually.
Okay.
Discipline, do the things you say you're going to do. That's what I finally came down to it. Are you disciplined enough to do the task? And really what I look at is something that I feel like others tell me I do this very well, and I feel like I'm a very modest person, but I when I go out to do something, I don't just start it, but I finish it. And when I finish it, I always want to make sure that the no, you know what? I learned this from an old manager. The old manager said, "I don't care how good you did it." And this is coming from my days as a tech, and I still do it. But he said,
Okay.
"I don't care how well you finish that project. Make that person sit down in the chair and do whatever it is that you just fixed, because there's a possibility that they may do it completely different and it still doesn't work." So that's kind of where I look at the discipline side of it.
Okay.
And are you disciplined enough to not only do the task, perform the work, but to actually ask the person that needs to perform that job to do it with you sitting right in front of them and be judged to see if you did it right or not.
Interesting. So since they're validating your resolution or what you fixed, because they might be doing slightly different, and that I would think also would hope cut down boomerang tickets.
Yeah.
Right. Those tickets coming back because this thing still doesn't work, or they did it slightly different, or there's another piece, another step you didn't take as a technician to see this action or this result. So no, I imagine that would help keep that down.
It does. And
Sure.
I believe that was the reason why it was told to me. It's just like, yeah, we don't want you coming back. At the end of the day, I didn't really, it was like, we can't afford to send you back. So, make sure that things work before you walk out the door.
Yeah. Especially if there's some distance involved. And obviously today we do, obviously the majority of everything's remote, but there's a point where everything was required for us to physically drive there and go do that thing. Right.
Yeah.
And, that was time and money and miles. And so I can definitely understand that. And your last piece was on learning. And I'm assuming you have not only an aspect of self-improvement in learning, but maybe also learning from mistakes, learning from, experiences.
Yeah. So how I defined learning was continuously challenging yourself and others to grow and apply learned knowledge. So everything you just said, Mark, learn from your mistakes, learn from the outside world. So like I said, these are core values that I created as I started hiring people, and they changed slightly since I created them, but these are the ones that I landed on. I'm someone that always wants to learn, and I always want to just understand and learn new things, and I don't want to just set up like in our industry, it's like you set up a Windows server and like, cool, we're good.
Right.
You got this for another 10 years and we don't have to do another thing with it. It's like, no. I mean, it's just, there's so much out there. There's the cloud, there's Azure, there's servers, there's security. And so when I was thinking of this, I thought, what's the very last thing that I haven't said that I would want someone on the team to desire? And it's a desire to learn. And it's to learn on their own. I mean, like, they want to always be learning and learn from others, learn from their mistakes. Yeah.
No, it's great.
The one other piece was ownership that was in between discipline and learning. there's a lot of similarities between discipline and ownership, but I did want to just touch on that, which is being accountable for the results of your actions. So they're kind of the same, and that's where the whole, if you do something, own it, and if you did it wrong, own it. Which is such a hard thing to
because
do.
If you own it, now there's opportunity to learn something from that, right?
Exactly.
You go back to and face
exactly.
it.
If you can't fail, if you can't admit failure, how are you ever going to learn?
Well, failure, exactly, because failure is opportunities to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and typically what we're doing, Dan, in our businesses, it's not life or death, right? For
no,
99% of what we're
sometimes
doing.
I feel like it's more important.
Well, the client might think that at times, but
right.
Just because they can't open Word doesn't mean it's life or death, or something. Simple.
I'm glad you say that. Oh my goodness.
I thank you for sharing those. It's interesting to hear, I guess, the kind of meaning behind those, because I know that here internally, as we kind of defined our core values moving forward, I was really interested in hearing what the team felt they meant, right? Great. We picked these words, but what do those words truly mean to you? So, recently, as I'm starting on a journey, and I'm new to this journey, but it's a journey of change. It's a journey of being better. And part of that journey was looking at, obviously, my organization and going, hey, look, what do we got to do to be better? What can we do to be better? Because there's tons of room for improvement. We've been at a maturity level. I really feel that, I've been very tech focused instead of business focused, right? We're working in the business instead of on the business type of scenario, right? So, okay, let's take a step back and look at these things, and let's put some of this elementary, those things that should have been done 13 years ago, in place. So we said, okay, let's start with core values, right? And the way we handled that was I came up with a list of core values, and I went to Microsoft Forums, threw out an anonymous survey, right? Say, hey, vote on or pick 10. You have to pick 10. No, we're only going to need 5. Pick 10.
Right.
So then we got those back, said, okay, we got a guaranteed majority of this one. So we'll pull this out. Everything that didn't get any votes, we'll pull these out. The ones that were low. And then we're going to reintroduce another form with these core values. And we're going to pick 6.
Yeah.
And then we got those back and said, okay, we don't have ties. We clearly have winners. All right, now let's take those and let's meet as a team and then review those just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Now, mind you, all that was anonymous because I didn't want to single anybody out. I wanted them to be able to vote for what they want without coming back to them and feeling like pressured. So then we met as a team and said, okay, this is what everyone has come up with, right? I mean, we voted. And in my take of this is, look, though my name is tied to the company for responsibility, ultimately, this is our company. And I want my team members, you are the pillars of this company. We are going to build the skyscraper on top of it.
I love
it. I want to know what's important to you as a person. What is important to you for the company that you work for, that you want to work for and continue working for. Let's bring those together.
That's beautiful. I love it.
So what, as a team, interesting enough, teamwork was unanimous. Absolutely. Everyone voted for teamwork. Okay, awesome, right? And then so we kind of had that discussion like, all right, tell me what teamwork means to you.
Yeah.
And just as in a group. And we know that teamwork is teamwork, right? We know how that aligns and basically about sharing experiences, sharing knowledge, working together to accomplish objectives, helping each other, a lot of sharing and exchanging, right? And helping each other when they're in trouble. We're not on we're not on an island by ourselves. We have help, reach out. That's what a team's here for, to support each other. When you're having a bad day, your strength is in the team. So
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, it didn't used to always be like that either. Where there used to be a lot of islands in our industry, a
yeah,
lot of silos, a lot of islands.
sure.
So I really like that.
Next, as far as when it came to the voting, was accountability. So, and
Yeah.
you start learning about your team members and what's important to them. And to hear that accountability was important to them, like, wow, okay, cool. Number one, I know I don't hold people accountable enough, right? So they're asking for this. They think it's important to them. All right, and then
Hmm.
asking what's that mean? And then getting some of the feedback and telling how it helps to that accountability helps to for self improvement. A lot of improvement answers can help identify weaknesses. So once again, so we can improve on those, right? So
Yeah.
everything about the accountability was kind of like you talking about ownership, right? Like
Hmm.
taking ownership and then having that accountability to it, and you're going to improve from that. You fail,
Oh
right?
yeah.
We learn from that. We're not crucifying anybody, right? We learn together, we grow together.
That's right. That's right. And it's all part of the teamwork. It all kind of goes back to that.
Right, definitely. And that's why I said a lot of these align with each other, right? They weren't
Absolutely.
obscure things, like as core values. And I think a lot of organizations, at least in my limited research, I would like to think a lot of organizations have similar core values. I'd like to think as people that we naturally want a lot of these things.
Hmm. I know I do.
Well, good. I think so. I
Yeah.
heard your values, and they said,
Yeah. But
thirdly
how can
was
you have
yeah, good.
teamwork if you have one person that's not being accountable?
True.
You know?
Well, and by them helping to select these,
Yeah.
knowing they're important, that accountability piece is much easier to put into play.
Yeah.
Because face it, as a team, we selected these and we felt that these are important for us. So guess what? Now we can say we can hold each other accountable because we know his accountability is important.
Yep.
And we talk about recognition and obviously those tools we use. We talk about and other things.
Yeah.
As being core values, it allows them to obviously appreciate each other by showing that through obviously the specific team values that we've now established. And I see the teamwork one a lot.
Yeah.
People being thankful for the teamwork, because they help. Even I had a team member yesterday. It was out without internet. And one of the other team members helped her load up some prepaid data so she could still work and function until her internet came back up. I'm like going, that was
Wow.
teamwork, right? Like they paid, she didn't
Yeah.
have to do that, but no, she helped her make sure because she didn't have an internet, she couldn't get anything. So her team member from her working computer got everything set up and reactivated so she had data so she could work. And I'm like, hey, that's amazing, right? Like,
Oh. Yeah. It's not only, it's camaraderie. It's everything.
yeah,
It's fantastic. I love it.
yeah. Thirdly was integrity. And, we talked about, once again, we talked about integrity and that aspect kind of a little bit with you just a few minutes ago. So, and what I thought was interesting is hearing one of our team members come back and say, integrity to this individual was the string that ties all the values together.
Ooh.
It's like the string, the glue, right? Like the integrity. And obviously, integrity means, but going, hey, that's a really interesting way of seeing that, right? I'm like, I never thought of it that way. But they also talk about doing the right thing, right? Whether it's independently, even when no one is looking or watching.
Yes.
Doing
What
the
are you
right
going to
thing.
do when no one else is looking?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially that's really important too when, everyone's working remotely in our organization. So there's not, we're in teams all day, but it's not like we're staring over people's shoulders, watch what they're doing. So knowing that integrity is important to them.
It's so funny. I'm gonna give an analogy for a second, but in Texas, we used to have red light cameras, and then they got rid of them. And I often see, unfortunately, people run red lights, and I have to wonder, do the people that not run the red lights, if there's no one else around, are they running the red light? Because for me, I don't want that person on my team. if that person is going to do something like that when no one else is looking, what else are they going to do?
Right.
That's not right when someone else is not looking. So sorry,
Sure.
I like analogies.
No, analogies are great. I'm usually one that doesn't think of them, but I love hearing them. And then another piece of that integrity was another team member is the trust. Having integrity obviously builds that trust from the client side by us having integrity, right? So by having integrity, our clients will be more trusting of us, and being important. So it's very cool to hear the kind of that definition from the team members, like, hey, what does this mean? Now, obviously, I wasn't forcing everyone to say what each thing means, right? But those that wanted to offer up their opinion on that, right, hey, let's hear it. And some were, would wait. Just, I want to talk about this when we get there. Okay, we'll get there.
I love it.
The one that really shocked me the most, and maybe it shouldn't have, but it did, which is a little bit of reflection of myself, maybe. Communication. Communication was a core value that was selected. I can tell you that I did not vote for communication, but I see it's important. Communication. So then I instantly go, well, geez, is it because I don't communicate enough? Do they feel like there's not enough transparency? That they're not informed?
What are they saying about me?
What am I doing wrong? So that's what I said. I would say this is important. So let's look at this, because I want to make sure we understand what that means and address it. Because if that's that important to you, then it's important to me, right? So my notes are necessarily always the best as I'm trying to scribble things down, but part of this was saying that it helps in understanding and what to do next. Communication, right? That I got to read my writing. That both internal and external, so both internal facing for team members and for the team, and external to the client, that they feel it helps with transparency, which then supports some of the other core values, right? That integrity, right? And I'm like, sure, obviously there's a right time and right place for some of those communications, right?
Yes.
But no, and one of you suggested that about listening to some TED Talks, because TED Talks are structured a very specific way for communication and delivery. I'm like, I will take note of that. It looks like I need to watch some TED Talks, just to see that reference.
Yeah. I've watched some TED Talks, but I have never watched them to dissect their structure and how they're giving the talk.
Well, you've got one up on me. I don't think I've ever watched a full TED Talk. Maybe a clip.
Oh, really?
No. I mean, I know there's some good stuff there.
Yeah. They're really good. And some of them are not, but usually because it doesn't interest me at all. And I'm like, I thought it would, but it doesn't. But no, I do enjoy them though. Yeah.
And our last and final one kind of, once again, I think falls in line with yours, and that was continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And this is real short. Everything can be improved. Everyone can be improved. Everyone can be better. There's always room for improvement. We talk about that, that 1% a day, that compounding and the value of that. So, there's always room for improvement. I'm trying to improve myself, right? On many different levels. So, that's what we determined. So now that we have these core values, great. We've established core values. Now what's next, right?
Right. Now what?
Now what? So, I do find that these words being used a lot in communication.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And now that we're in teams and we're talking, these words get thrown around a lot more because now we've established those. So we're referencing them quite frequently. So the next phase for us is, okay, great. Now we've defined what our values are as a team, not Mark's values,
right?
But as a team for the organization. And then it would be, now we start working on who we are and what that means and where we're going as a team. And that reflects back to the conversation we're talking about. Outside of this was OKRs, right?
Yes.
And using those objective and key results. Yeah. Objectives and key results. So as a team, we're meeting to define those This isn't, once again, Mark establishing goals. We're establishing team objectives, which is the path that we are going to take. And then those key results to know that we're on the right path.
Yeah. Wouldn't you think, or at least I would think that key results are to have good communication, to be trustworthy, have integrity, and to have all of your core values would be key results to your objective, which is running a tier 1 team.
Yeah, at a
Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I would say think so, especially at a high level, right? Like,
yeah.
As a high level, as a whole, as an organization, 100%.
Because I'm still trying to learn the OKRs, so I'm just kind of trying to put it together with the
I'm
core
with
values.
you. And right here, what do we have? We have radical focus.
Oh man, you actually bought the paper.
And we have measure what matters, right?
Measure what matters. That's right.
I also got those in audio book, but
that's what I did. I did the audio book too. But I'm serious. It's like I'm still trying to learn it. So it's like, you creating the core values. I mean, at the end of the day, it's real easy to know. At least I created them, and I believe we created them that way we could build the best team that we wanted to build based on these words. And if at any point something starts to happen, we can look at these words and actually interrogate whatever's happening. Are we all working together as a team? Is everyone being accountable? Are we working with integrity? And then if all of a sudden we realize, you know what? Yeah, somebody lost trust in someone else, and that's going to affect the main objective, which is having a top-notch team.
And I might have said it, but that too, by having the team help with the core values, it's much easier to get them in the boat rowing with me as a rowing team and not rowing in a different direction. I'm not dragging them to Mark's core values. We've established what's important to them. And it'll be much easier to uphold those core values. And as we continue to grow and bring new individuals on board, if they don't meet not only individuals to work with our team, but also from the client aspect, if they don't align with our core values, they're not a good fit for us. Now we've got these key things, right, that we're looking for. And if they don't align, we're not meant to be.
Yeah, it's so cool because I'm going to go back to another analogy. Sorry, Mark.
Go for it.
A few years back, I joined a rowing group because I hurt I'm a runner, for those that don't know, and I hurt my knee. I tore my meniscus, so I had to do something else. So I thought, I like the rowing machine at the gym. How hard could rowing on a lake be? It's actually quite difficult because you don't think of the fact that you have to balance in a boat, because if you don't balance, you fall in the water.
Oh no.
but I think that, and it's called sculling. So I was on a boat when they put us in a boat of 4 people, and everyone has to be accountable. You have to trust each other, and it must be teamwork, because all you need is one person to hit the water. They call the oar a scull, but all you need is one person to hit the water just the wrong way, and everybody's going down.
Oh, wow.
So you have to trust everyone. You have to you have to trust the person that's behind you, the person that's in front of you, to do what they're supposed to do. So
yeah,
and the thing is, it's not just you running that ship. Mm-hmm. Everybody is a part of that ship, and they're all rowing together. And they all own the destination too, right? They're in control of the destination. They're owning it. And at the end, when they finally finish, whether it be a day, a week, a year, whatever it is, they know that they ran that ship. and they had something to do with it. And if somebody's not doing something right, they don't have to wait on you or someone else to go, gosh, I wish Mark would fix this problem that's going on. It's like, no.
Instantaneous, you would know that there's that problem and it's got to be addressed on the spot, right? I mean, if you make a mistake,
Yes.
it's quite obvious. Wow.
Exactly.
And I couldn't, obviously I've never experienced such a thing. I barely can handle a canoe, or a single person kayak, right? But
I would totally do it. It's really quite fun, and it is quite the workout. It is a lot of fun, but you will get wet. So if you don't want to fall into a pretty dirty lake,
it might not be for you.
It might not be for you. Yeah. But that's the deterrent, right? It's like, I'm going to do everything right. Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Very cool. Just think where we're going here with this. So the core values. Now, your core values, since you've established those over time, have those shifted much, or you've stuck to those same core values from the beginning?
So it's interesting. They have shifted a little. Okay. The ones that shifted were discipline and ownership, even though they're somewhat similar. Mm-hmm. But the core values were created in 2021.
Recently.
It's very recent. I did it when I started to realize that when I started hiring people, and then I started hiring people long before 2021, but it wasn't on the same level that it was starting in 2020 or 2019. And when I did employee evaluations, it was just like using someone else's like template or something like that. And one of the things that I realized was that in order for me to really evaluate another person, I have to come up with what I believe my core values are. So that makes this a little different. I didn't build these with a team. It was things that I came up with on my own. And then I thought, that's really the only way that I can not judge another person, but evaluate another person. And if they fall outside of one of those core values, it's easy to say that, if you're going to be part of the Integra MSP way, is what I've decided to call it, then like if you're not learning, then that's going to be an issue. And it's not necessarily going to get you exited from the company, but it's something that we just it's going to impact the performance of others, and we're going to try to promote that, and we're going to try to push you for it. And honestly, you may want to leave at the end of the day if you don't. Like, if I'm using learning because that's one that some people I find could be complacent, could get complacent in a position.
Sure.
But if they don't want to have that as part of one of their core values in themselves, then it's probably going to be hard for them to want to stay with our company. So,
well, we're in technology, and face it, as they say, the only thing changes faster than IT or tech is medical. So, if we're not continuously learning or continuously growing, we're falling behind. So from the technical aspect, let's just look at the technical piece, the service team. If they're not growing, learning continuously, they're doing a disservice to not only the rest of the team, but to our clients.
Exactly.
And we know our tool sets are constantly changing and evolving. I mean, try to keep up with any of it by yourself, right? I mean, it's tough. That's why we obviously broke everything up and assigned kind of champions to these tool sets we use, so we can be more focused and make sure we're staying up with them. But Even when we talk about maybe professional certifications and those things, a lot of times if that isn't part of that, maybe it's not that important to them. They say they're interested in learning and growing. But if they're not actually doing it, well, then now they're no longer upholding our core values, right?
Exactly.
Maybe it's not a good fit. It's easier just to come maybe get that paycheck and not actually apply and learn and grow. And like I said, I've seen it not only here, but obviously in past organizations I've been with and other lives I've had. But you do see that, right? When people get complacent,
Exactly.
they just get like, going, it's too much work. Or, I was very aggressive in my past lives and training and certifications. And,
Same.
it was constant.
Same.
It was constantly testing or working on some new certification, something or other. Now, none of those hold valid today, but, it was a lot of work. I think at one time, just for one organization, or one manufacturer, whatnot, I think I had 13 certifications with just one, right? Like, I was constantly learning and growing. And I'm not a good test taker, so that was always real fun too.
Well, I'm right there with you. I'm not a good test taker either. It's funny hearing what you just said, brings me back to what I said, which is if you didn't follow learning, it probably wouldn't be something that got you exited. Actually, it probably would be, now that I really think about it. It's based on time. It certainly could be. And yeah, because if you're not learning and you're not growing, then your knowledge is going to eventually become extinct.
Or you're always going to be, in a sense, you're never going to grow. You're never going to move up a level or whatever, right? Like, once again, I keep on looking at the service aspect, right? Yeah. Because there's a lot more certifications, a lot more specific training that's happening on a regular basis there, right? But that piece is like, if you're not going to learn and grow and evolve, you're going to fall behind, and you're not adding value to the team. You're not adding to the company. You're not adding value to the clients.
Yep.
And you're not doing yourself any favors either, right? You're doing a disservice to yourself, because I'm always like going, hey, look, we're providing this time to train. We're providing this, whatever. We're paying for this. We're providing the materials. We're doing these things. If you're not going to take advantage of it, those are feathers you can put in your hat. That's the things that goes on your resume. Those things that go with you, right? That's only improving yourself. That's the badges you can pin to your chest.
Exactly.
These are opportunities. If you don't want to capitalize on them, this is probably not the best environment for you.
Exactly.
Because I'm willing to invest in you.
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that either, because there's quite a few people out there that just want to find a place that they can stay at, and they like what they do. They don't necessarily want to learn. Maybe they used to learn and then they don't anymore. It's just, in our industry, there's really no room for that in our industry, in my opinion. But there's definitely places that they could go, and
sure, they would do well. And once again, if it's more of a stagnant environment, that we support this thing and we flip these pages and nothing changes, and
exactly.
And those maybe later in their careers, right? We talk about when you're younger, we're much more driven, we're much more eager. Once again, I mean, another thing too, right? The older I get, the harder it is for me to learn, right?
You're pretty driven right now. I'm going to say, I don't know.
It's harder to, I guess, the technology piece gets a little harder, right? I mean, it's evolving at a much faster pace than I can physically move than I was when I was in my 20s.
Technology is moving. I feel like it's moving quite a bit faster than it did, 15, 20 years ago.
IT is a different world than what it was 20 years ago.
That's for sure. Yeah.
That's for another day, but right. Another day, another discussion.
Another day, another discussion. Mark, if anyone is still listening to this, I got to give them kudos. I think this is probably a good place to put the pin in it until next time. What do you say?
Certainly. It's been great, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity to jump in here and have a conversation about, what matters most to our companies, right? As far as core values.
Absolutely. And maybe, hopefully, it will help someone else along their journey of that they're building themselves. So
most definitely.
Awesome.
Very good. Until next time, Dan.
Yeah. Take care, Mark.
Right, bye. Hi, I'm Mark Thomas, founder and CEO of Current Tech Solutions and Cyber Guardians. If you or someone you know could benefit from our cutting-edge IT and cybersecurity services, we'd love to help. Our expertise in securing your business with AI precision ensures that you're protected and empowered to thrive. Reach out to us today to learn how we can secure and elevate your business.